I think it all depends on how grief shows up for each individual. When you think about how grief shows up, it is not this small, arbitrary emotion that calmly walks up to you and peeks its head in and says, hi.
It's like a wave.
It
That
is.
comes and takes you down. Managers are afraid of taking FMLA or leave because they believe it's going to impact their jobs.
Being productive does not mean that you're healing. If you're not productive, it doesn't mean that you're failing at healing either.
Hello, and welcome to Coffee and Coaching. Today's episode is going to be a very, very important one for anyone that feels like you still need to show up at work even though you're heartbroken. Whether you went through a breakup, whether you lost a loved one, whether you are getting a divorce, you're grieving. And if you're in the process of grieving, and guess what? You still have to show up at work, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about the rights. We're going to talk about the many different things, what grief really means. Health changes are also a grieving process. Identity shifts are a grieving process. Grieving has more layers than you ever thought. Today, we're joined by grief coach Heather Greenwell in Coffee and Coaching. Heather is an amazing human being that I happened to meet in one of my coaching trainings, and I was in awe when I heard that she helps coach people through health changes, as well as some of her focus is on grieving children going through a transition or a loss of a loved one. She is an expert, and her energy is so crucial and vital to everything that she does. I'm so excited to have her here. I personally went through a really big grieving process, and instead of pausing and taking my time, I kept going. When we created this season with Life His Work, I ensured that grief was in this topic and that we had a grief coach so we can talk about how do you still able to keep working while you're grieving. So grab a cup of coffee or tea or your selection and let's sit down and talk to the amazing Heather Greenwell.
So a lot of people, when they think about grief, they think about someone in their family dying or some kind of death. What are some of the different kinds of grieving that someone could be experiencing?
Well, I think in order to understand grief, right, and kind of how it shows up and what it is, I mean, it's the body's natural response to a significant life change or major loss that really impacts us emotionally, physically, and cognitively. And so when it does show up, there are a handful of emotions that accompany it. So it can be heartache and sorrow and anger and even love, right?
Yeah.
And these are big feelings that really force us to sit down and address all of our feelings at one time. So yes, to your point, a common belief is that grief shows up when you've lost somebody, a loved one, maybe they've passed away. But grief actually shows up in other scenarios as well. So if you are navigating relationships, whether platonic or romantic, and maybe you have somebody that you've been friends with for 15 plus years, you have a falling out.
Yes.
And there's a part of you that really grieves the loss of that relationship. The same can be said for romantic relationships.
Yeah.
If you're navigating through separation or divorce or even co-parenting dynamics. I've had clients that I've worked with who are grieving health changes that they've experienced.
So like cancer, anything like terminal of that sort. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or even something as short-lived as taking blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big switch from not taking any medication to then turning around and taking it. Right.
Yes.
And then even in scenarios where I think it's more common in today's economy where your company has layoffs and you're impacted by losing your job.
Yeah.
Right. And even expectations that you have for yourself and how your life should turn out. I think we probably all know somebody who kind of feels like, oh, by this age, I should be married with kids, or I should be at a certain level in my career.
Yes.
And it doesn't pan out.
Yes.
Right? Those are all scenarios.
That's a big one. I actually I deal with a lot of executive women in their mid 40s, 50s, and the loss of the idea of having a child. Now there's a lot of like, you can freeze your eggs and like and all that stuff. But when that option is not there, and like now I have to grieve the fact that I thought that maybe one day I'll get to being a mother. And now they're grieving the idea, they're grieving the dream. And it's so interesting. The other thing that comes to mind is like the wheel of emotions. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one of our coaches constantly lets me know that I am human and that I have all these feelings. And I think I'm a Power Ranger, right? Like, I'm like, nah. There's this gift from Cardi B that she's like, I'm an emotional thug. I cry once a week, something like that. I don't know, some crazy. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I remember the day I have to grieve the emotions that I was feeling in my case through a custody trial and like working through a divorce, right? The divorce wasn't a stuff. It was more like the custody thing, right? This is your child. And I remember looking into the wheel because I was like still early in my coaching career and saying for the first time, I never, because I'm like, this is not sadness. This is not sadness. I'm like, and looking deeper, it's like, I've never felt agony before. Like, I can genuinely say, I understand the difference between sadness and agony. And like you're saying, like all these big feelings, all these big emotions, like love, that you get to that point where you're going to experience like that. That's some heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. It's not always an easy path to navigate through, but you really have to sit with it in order to be able to process your grief.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I met last week with a CEO of a company. I hope she's okay with me sharing this. And she talked about, and it's a big story of why she started the company she started, but she had to deal with stillbirth of her child. And one of the questions that was asked is like, hey, how did you deal with that? And she said something that's going to lead me to my next question to you. She was like, well, it wasn't until 6 years after it happened that it all hit me. And in those 6 years, she went to work, she opened a company, she got funded, like a lot of money, millions of dollars, right? She's a $1 million funded company, did all of that. It didn't hit her till 2 years ago. So I want to ask you a little bit of what happens there. Is that common?
So it is common. I think it all depends on how grief shows up, right? For each individual. I think it's fair to say that when you think about how grief shows up, it is not this small, arbitrary emotion that calmly walks up to you and peeks its head in and says, hi, right? It
It's
is.
like a wave.
It
That
is.
comes and takes you down.
Yes, it's a powerhouse of feelings and beliefs that's like coming down the hallway at you at full speed, and suddenly, boom, it's right in your face. And grief has no problem making its presence known and showing up. Now, there are different types of grief, right?
Mhm.
Like there is acute grief, which happens immediately. There is anticipatory grief, where your body is kind of prepping, expecting something to take place that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And there's also prolonged grief, which, according to clinical definition, is grief that lasts anywhere from 6 months or more, right?
Wow.
But it takes time to process through your grief, and that can take years.
So what if you don't have years? Because years is a long, 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 long time. And I got things to do. You know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like, yeah. Can you control how long you're grieving for?
No, you really can't. You can't control it.
And I want to say that because like there's a lot of people with agendas that are watching the show that have like timelines. And let me tell you this funny story because I think it's relevant. After I was done, because I was in immediate grief when I was going through that process of feeling agony. I was feeling it, and everybody around me knew. And like it was interesting for many reasons we can get into in a minute. Funny thing, fast forward 4 years after, it showed up as something else. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm done grieving. That grieving is gone. Like I did that. I did the work. I grieved. I got a therapist. I did the crying, and I'm like, all that. And then fast forward, it came back up again as a form of something else, like a fear or a thing or like an anxiety about something. And is that common?
It is common. I mean, So I too have experienced grief with losing my mother,
Yeah.
right? And it's impacted me in a lot of different ways. But one way in which it shows up is when I'm parenting my kids, right?
Oh, wow.
If I'm navigating my own grief, right? And feeling all the feels and the emotions that come up with it, I may not be able to show up always in the way that I'd like to for my kids. And so, yes, grief impacts other areas of your day to day, whether it's work, whether it's your relationships with friends and family. It's there. I think the important thing to take away is that as you navigate through your grief journey, regardless of the circumstance, is that you may reach a place where you feel really good where you're at with your grief.
Yeah.
But then something will come along that might cause it to come back up. And that's okay. It's a journey. It's not a destination to reach the end, to heal, to be done. Like, it is just a continuation of a process.
And I love that you do grief coaching, because that's something that can be explained for someone going through that process, as well as the therapy, right? Because I'd also want us to talk a little bit about that difference, right? So something that comes up with my clients a lot is because we teach emotional intelligence to leaders on how to manage their emotions. Because we always talk, the only thing guaranteed in life is that you're going to feel feelings. In order for you to be human, you have to have a limbic system. And I always give this example about the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is the rational side of your brain. Limbic system is the emotional side of your brain. Limbic system releases 70% of the energy that goes through your body when you're taking action, thinking, feeling, or behaving. And 30% of it comes from your rational side. If anything were to happen to you and that prefrontal cortex is gone, you can rebuild it. It is built based on memory. But your limbic system, if anything happens to you and suddenly you don't have a limbic system, you die. So it sounds very morbid, but it's something that I constantly let my clients know, especially when I have clients that are in denial of emotions. And I'm like, the only thing guaranteed in life is that you're going to feel. And it doesn't matter if you suppress those emotions. It doesn't matter if you pretend that you're a thought. Like, it's going to come up. And your ability to manage them when it comes up, that's what makes professionals like climb faster in their career or be able to achieve those things faster, because they don't omit them, they acknowledge them. And I think, like, with this grief, what happens is there's so many emotions, so many feelings that come up, and you're like, oh my God, right? And I'll tell you, even when you think you have studied emotional intelligence, you're prepared, you're not. It's just crazy how it hits you. And it's guaranteed that in life you will grieve something. And right?
Yeah.
How can you not when you have so many things that you love in this life?
Right. And as you stated, it's part of the human experience. I mean, to exist is to grieve, but it's also to love. Like, you have to be able to balance between both arenas.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's go into so everybody knows the 7 stages of grief, or 5. This is why we bring coaches that are experts in their field, because I'm not an expert in this field. So what are the 5 stages of grief?
So they would be denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Oof.
And I think more recently, there's a 6th one that's been added, and it's called meaning, right?
Oh.
And so traditionally, the 5 stages of grief, right, were created by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross as a framework to understand a little bit more about what terminally ill patients go through and experience as they are dying. It wasn't initially created as a framework to help those who were navigating loss and bereavement, but it has been a tool that I think is been it's pretty common and has been integrated into our culture.
Yes, you see it in movies all the time.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the stages is that even though you're navigating through your grief, you may not experience all of them. So you may experience 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. Right. And so the idea of the 6th one being added for meaning is to kind of take that full circle of experience, like the situation you're navigating, and have it make meaning. What does it mean to you? How do I build from here forward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I first of all, I did not know that you could not go through some of those stages, because that makes a little bit more sense to me. I'm like, I felt for a long time, I'm like, I skipped all of them and went to acceptance. It's done now. It's been processed. I have an Excel sheet. It's over. Yeah.
Yes.
And apparently it does not work like that.
It does not. Mm-mm. You gotta feel all the feels, right? You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it does show up later, and it comes
Apparently.
out differently. Yeah.
Yeah. And it comes in a wave. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm going to be open for me after I finish grieving that, because I thought I was done. I also had a baby. So a lot of like different life changes happening simultaneously. And then suddenly I leave corporate and I get on, like, I start flying. And my fear of flying from when I was 21 came back. And so I hire a EMDR therapist and I'm like, hey, I need this gone. So what's the plan? Or how it's like, well, you got to go through it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I went through it 4 years ago. We don't need to be going through this again. It's like your body is telling you that it needs to go through it. There's this saying that says, the only way out is through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I think about when I think through grief and all those different things. So tell me a little bit about someone going through grief at work. What are some of the like misconceptions that people have about going through it at work? What are some of the things that they can do to be able to show up at work in order to do that?
So I think some of the things that can be helpful navigating grief when you're at work is still kind of having the awareness of where your limits are at, right? Because grief impacts focus and productivity, you're not going to function on a normal kind of basis as you normally would, right?
Yeah.
Things are going to impact it. And part of that is working on a task and maybe in the moment you're focused on completing an assignment, but as you're working on it, suddenly you have an intrusive thought or you have a memory that kind of resurfaces of the grief that you're experiencing, maybe of the romantic relationship or the loss of a loved one. And suddenly you're in the throes of grief, right? And you're in those feelings and it's like, wait a minute, I was trying to work on work and now I'm distracted. And I think realizing that that's okay to stop and take a pause and process.
Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Yes. Because again, grief is showing up in a way that's intrusive and you're feeling all the feels and your brain is on bandwidth overload. Like you can't absorb anymore. And in the moment, it's hard to kind of go back to what you need to be focused on.
Yes.
It also affects executive functioning, right? Which is the part of your brain that does planning and decision making and staying on task.
Yes.
And that's okay too. Like that research shows that it's normal for that part of yourself to be affected throughout the process. So I definitely think that remembering to find balance, give yourself grace and knowing where your limits are at. The other thing that comes up is that if you have the ability to be productive, that's awesome. But being productive does not mean that you're healing, right?
Oof.
And if you're not productive, it doesn't mean that you're failing at healing either, right? It means that you are navigating that wave of I'm productive in the moment, but then I need to take a breath and kind of make space for myself.
Wow. So what you're saying is, and this is so important because I didn't know that's how it worked. So being productive doesn't mean that you're grieving. And when you stop being productive because you're grieving, like it's all part of the process, including that pause.
Yes.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, because again, you're overwhelmed, overloaded with emotions and again, intrusive thoughts and feelings. And if you're in an emotional state, everything is all over the place.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Before we continue, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, HIK Trainings. If you're ever wanting to level up your leadership skills or bring real connection back to your remote team, check out hiktrainings.com.
The reality is, you don't need another leadership workshop. You need a leadership system that transforms how you lead. The HIK method is our 6-week neuroscience-informed leadership program that reshapes the way high-performing managers think, connect, and deliver results. Grounded in self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and coaching skills, this isn't about managing tasks. It's about mastering yourself, earning trust, and building teams that perform because they feel seen. Designed for managers ready to evolve from operators into leaders, and for organizations ready to transform and build a culture that retains them. Leadership isn't discovered, it's designed. Design yours with the HIK method. Visit hiktrainings.com/HIK method.
And we're back. You're listening to Coffee and Coaching, where we blend real conversations with real growth. Let's jump in.
What happens when you feel like flaring out at work? Like you can't hide it anymore. Like all these different things are happening and I feel like it's showing on the edges. Because I feel like sometimes it can be mental a little bit.
It can be.
Yeah, like nobody knows, but then like for example, for me, like I start oversharing. I'm like, and this is happening, and this is happening, this is happening, because I'm like, probably my ADHD. Is it okay? I guess.
So yes. But again, I think it kind of comes back to understanding your boundaries and what's important to you. I think in some scenarios, yes, if you're having a really tough day and you need to pull your manager or supervisor aside and just say, hey, I need a few moments to breathe. I feel like that boundary can be toed of, hey, I'm sharing and letting you know that I'm having a heavy moment, but I don't have to tell you everything, right? Because
I love it.
Right. Like it's your workplace, right?
Yes.
And it's not that people don't care about you, but still like you're balancing showing up for yourself and showing up for your employer.
Yes.
And then I think also making sure that if you're having a tough day that you are eating and you are drinking and you are taking a few minutes to step outside and see the sunshine and just reground yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes employers have different personal leave programs available to employees that are also helpful. A lot of the time, depending on the scenario that you're navigating through, you could qualify for FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act. There are specific paperwork that has to be completed and submitted back to your employer, but if it is approved, it does protect you from losing your job.
Yes.
If you need a specific workplace accommodation, so for example, if you're a primary caregiver of a parent, then you could have the FMLA paperwork completed, filled out, and the HR team on site can help work with you to provide an accommodation.
Okay.
There's also employee assistance programs, which are my favorite for a couple of reasons, because they are a third party vendor that your employer works with, right? To be able to provide you support. And you can reach out to EAPs for legal support, for counseling, and a variety of different other kind of areas. And as the employee, if you reach out and connect with the EAP services, they will help connect you to somebody in your local vicinity and provide you with that support.
I love that.
And a lot of the times it's free counseling. There can be a certain amount of sessions available to you before you would have out-of-pocket expenses, but it's there. And what I really, really love about it is the fact that it's all confidential. So as the employee, you're reaching out, you're getting support. That third party is not going back to your employer and saying, so-and-so is navigating all of this. They don't even send them that any information at all. So it's truly, you have support there through your workplace if you need it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that the other piece that I feel interesting is that there's a lot of stigma with FMLA. I've known of people that are like, I'm not going to use it yet. And I'm like, you're like, one employee I used to have is like, he needed someone in his family needed surgery. And I'm like, this is absolutely one of those times you can. But it's like, there was a fear of, if I do it, I'm going to be seen as I'm not doing my job or negligible or I can't handle it. And it's going to come up on my performance evaluation next time. So I think like employers and companies have put a really good guardrails around certain things. And then, but still, even though they put the guardrails, there's still like stigmas that people believe managers will have, and it will end up affecting their employment. So I just want to say, if you're in that situation, you're in the wrong place. get the heck out. These laws have been established for a reason.
Mhm.
And you taking that pause and taking that time protects your employment. If you're being judged against taking FMLA, that you should definitely talk to HR about that.
I would agree.
In my
100%.
opinion.
Yep.
Because it's crazy. I've seen it again and again and again. Managers are afraid of taking FMLA or leave because they believe it's going to impact their jobs. And what are all these laws put together for? The same thing happens with, believe it or not, with pregnancy.
Mhm.
Like a lot of women are afraid of telling their managers that they're going to go on maternity leave.
Mhm.
And I've been there where I had a manager who was so mad that an employee was pregnant. And for some reason felt so comfortable letting me know how mad he was. And I get it. Work's going to stop for a little bit, but companies should have budgets for this. They should have the backup to help managers deal. And in the US, we don't even have that much maternity leave.
No, we don't.
And we're getting cut those benefits. So, okay, I can talk to you forever about this. If there's one thing you will leave people with on this topic of grief and how they handle it at work, what will it be?
So I would say that there's probably a couple things. I think when you're navigating grief, one of the most important things that you could do for yourself is making sure that you're finding those little moments to reground yourself, because it's going to help you navigate forward. And so something that I found to be helpful for myself, and I know some of my other clients would agree, is that first thing in the morning, you need that barrier to the rest of the world. So taking a few minutes by yourself to enjoy a sip of your coffee or tea can really soothe the soul.
Yes.
But also finding time to journal and do a brain dump can really help you process and let go of those feelings and emotions. So write it all down, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, grief is not beautiful and it's not supposed to be. So
it's messy.
Get it out. And then remember your wins and acknowledge your micro joys, so that you remember that there are positive things that are still around you as you're navigating through these big feelings, and that beauty still exists when it feels like maybe it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
And I think those aspects can help you stay grounded as an individual, but still show up for the other people who are around you.
I want to say this because this topic is so timely, but your soul is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And one of my biggest pleasures is to be able to witness this in real life and see you and see all the beautiful things that you do, how you help patients that just got diagnosed with cancer, how you want to focus on that child losing a parent, like all the things that you do, to me, it's just so needed. Therapy is therapy, but grief coaching is specifically, definitely you should still do therapy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But that grief coach will help you with just seeing clearly and seeing which stage of that grief you're in, and what real goals you can set up for the stage that you're in. So if you go to someone like me that I'm a career coach and you're like, I'm trying to set up these goals, and you're going through a grief moment, it's probably going to be really hard for me as a career coach to coach you going through grief. But if you're going with a person that specializes in grief coaching, she will have much more of a lens and consideration for where are you in that stage of that grief. And should you be making long-term decisions at this moment where you're experiencing this grief? Because I can tell you right now, when I was going through mine, I should not have made any long-term decisions because it was such a big moment.
Thank you so much, Heather, for today's episode. You are incredible, and I am so grateful to have you, your energy, and to have met you and continue to learn from your amazing ability, your amazing empathy that we all need. So if you leave with anything on this episode, I want to let you know that grief changes affect everyone. And it can affect your motivation, it can affect your memory, your focus, your patience, and how you show up on your day-to-day responsibilities. And instead of judging ourselves for that, maybe we can learn how to work with it and around it. And also we can learn what are the tools that I need to pause. And if you're at a place where you don't feel safe pausing, that is a completely different conversation. And I'm going to need you to listen to our episode with Vilma Uzaite of whether you are in a place or a time of transition for also changing where you work. But again, when grieving happens, it's really hard for us to make rational decisions as our limbic system is running array. Hope this episode was helpful for you. Thank you for your time today, and I'll see you on the next episode of Season 2 when Life Hits Work. Take care.